Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at a mod called the Twin Engine Covet. For this vehicle, we have two versions. We have the Gambler, and then we have the Rally. We're going to start with the Gambler because it looks absurd. The Rally looks pretty normal. The Gambler looks completely wacky. So you can see just the suspension in this thing. It has portal axles to give it a ton of ground clearance with nothing really blocking the underside of the vehicle. It's just this nice tunnel of ground clearance. And it's a twin engine Covet. So we have an engine right in the front, just as you'd expect. Nothing really special about that engine. It's just a normal Covet engine. But then if we go to the rear, that's where things get a little bit more interesting. So it has an engine back here, and it's just a little tiny guy right here, like from a motorcycle. And it also has a fuel tank back there. The thing about these two engines, though, is they are almost completely independent of each other. So it is a very awkward vehicle to drive. In fact, you can't drive it without changing the settings for the game. So to change the settings, we would go to the options, and then you want to make sure that under gameplay, you have the gearbox mode set to realistic. Normally you could change this by clicking Q, but for some reason I've noticed sometimes when you have this car up and you start in arcade mode, you can't change to realistic mode for some reason. So you have to make sure it's already set to realistic mode. Because if you have it in arcade mode, you just simply can't drive the vehicle. Next, you want to go to controls, and then you're going to type shift into the bindings, and then under vehicle specific, you're going to want to bind shift up and shift down to a separate key from the normal shifting. Because these two engines, you need to shift them separately. You need to have 4 buttons in total just for shifting engines. And then another thing you can do that makes things a little bit easier is you can go to the customize UI, and then you're going to search for gear, and there'll be this one called Gears Second Gearbox, and this will tell you what gear the motorcycle engine is in, and the other one will tell you what gear the regular Covet engine is in. So now we have all the information we need, and we can try to drive this thing. And you wouldn't think it, but it's actually really confusing and difficult to drive because the transmission on the front engine and the rear engine are geared completely different, so you have to shift them at completely different times. And I usually shift by ear, so I'm listening to 2 different sounds at the same time mixing together, trying to hear just one and pick that one out and shift, while also listening to the other one and thinking, do I need to shift that one too? It's very, very difficult, and I kind of wish there was a tachometer for the second engine as well, but I did not see that as an option. We only have the tachometer for the Covet engine. But with all this ground clearance, this isn't the best place to drive this thing. I'm just driving it here because the road's there, and it's a great way to show you how it accelerates and how crazy you have to shift all over the place. If you were watching the gears, you would see I was shifting like every 5 seconds. And we very easily climb over the bridge to get to the dirt road. And now we should be able to give this thing a good test. Although going through here, there's no big rocks or anything that stick out of the ground that'll really allow us to make use of the portal axles. So instead, we're just mostly focused on how does the 4-wheel drive work when the front and rear are completely separate. And if you ever look at the gears and you see one is in second and one is in first or something like that, that's completely intentional and completely acceptable. Sometimes you just want to be in 2 different gears because that's the only way to have both of the engines in their power range. And one thing you probably have not noticed because I haven't really gone through all the gears yet, the bike engine has a 6-speed transmission. The Covet engine has a 4-speed. So obviously there's no way they'll line up properly. Ooh, this is a fun spot right here. If we go real careful, we can kind of go off-roading on these rocks and come back to the dirt road. Although I've made a mistake a bit. I have made a little bit of a mistake and I've just made it worse. So one thing also you should also mention talking about gearing, there is no reverse gear on the bike engine, only on the Covet engine, which means you don't have that very good of capabilities backing up compared to going forward when you're doing something like this. So you really got to make sure you plan it in advance, get the correct angle right from the start, and then you should be able to climb over these rocks without too much difficulty. Okay, this is difficult. This is not an easy thing to do. We got to back it up, so we put the other engine in neutral. Just get it a little bit back. There we go. Maybe a little more, Whoa, that's a lot more. Okay, we're good now. Both of them are in first, and away we go over the rocks and onto the dirt. That there was a good demonstration of the capabilities of this vehicle. No matter what vehicle you're driving, that is not going to be easy, and the Covet managed to do that. I'd love to see you try to do that with a regular Covet because it ain't happening. If you are an off-roading god and you have the rally version of the Covet, you might be able to do it. Maybe. Over here, we have some water. And you know what I just thought about? There was a much easier way to get down here. Okay, maybe not easier, but more fun. All we need to do is just accelerate hard at that rock spot, bounce across the rocks, and then land somewhere in the water, like right there. We're upside down, that's fine. We just got to get this thing back onto its wheels and a little bit out of the water. And now if we drive along the water, we should be able to get to the little crossing area. Also, one fun thing you can do with this Covet is you can drown just one engine and have the other one still working. Although it's really hard to get it where you only submerge just one of the engines. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the front engine and then just let it coast into the water. And now the rear engine is going to flood up with the water. And once it's completely flooded, it won't work. So we're going to pull the Covet out of the water. That's not the Covet, that's just the hatch. We'll pull the Covet out of the water. And then if we start up the engine, it should still work. Yeah, there we go. Now, obviously, this is not going to be as good as it was before at off-roading, because now it's just a front-wheel drive vehicle with a mighty fine off-road suspension. So I think for the most part, it can make it through here. We're just not going to go very fast, especially with the uphills. When we have the uphill and the front-wheel drive, we're kind of limited on how fast we can go. This is pretty much it. We ain't going to be going much more than that. If we had all-wheel drive, we could be flying through here as you saw me doing earlier. But with just the front-wheel drive, definitely limited, but I'm still impressed by its capabilities. It might not be fast, but it is capable. It's going decently fast now that it's not a big uphill section. Although here's another like uphill and it's just, oh, we got no traction. This is terrible. You know what? Here's what we should do. We should change maps. We're going to go to Utah, USA. And now we have a good place to really test out those portal axles and use the ground clearance, because we have all these rocks. They're just sitting on the ground. And when we see a rock, we should be able to drive right over it. Hopefully. We'll see if that actually works. Here's a nice pile of rocks. Approach it nice and easy. And then let's watch from the front so we can really see the ground clearance. Come on. Get over it. Yeah. I really do like the way those portal axles look during off-roading. They are cool. Another rock. Nice and easy. Right over it. No problem. So yeah, this thing is pretty off-road capable, because these are some chunky rocks that I am driving right over. Now let's go a little reckless. We're just going to go fast and see what happens. Probably going to lose a wheel or flip over very, very fast driving this reckless. And yep, there is the flip. And I want to crash this in a way where the wheel breaks off, but the axle is okay, so you can see what the portal axles look like, because they do look pretty cool. So to try to do that, slam into the wall, which apparently, unfortunately, did not work. Instead, we're going to try to climb the wall. You're pretty good at off-roading, but you can't do that. However, you have put yourself at a great angle for analysis. Oh, well, apparently I didn't rip the wheel off right because it's still attached. On the other hand, that wheel fell off, but the axle kind of got messed up in the process, so it doesn't look quite right. So we're going to reset this. I'm going to put it into the air a little bit. Get out of here, light. I don't need you. So I'll put it into the air like that, and then I'm going to try to rip the wheel off without damaging the axle. Secret is to do it as fast as you possibly can. And now we can actually look at the portal axle, because like I said, I think it looks pretty cool. So you see, you basically have a drive belt that goes from the regular drive axle down to over here. So when you accelerate, the belt would rotate and it would allow both of those to go at the same time. You see, you put it in the gear and they both actually rotate. I really like the fact that they both rotate. It was one of those little details where you probably could have got away with not doing that, but they did add that, and it's really cool to see it rotating like that. Now, back to doing some mean off-roading. We're going to bring back the strategy of floor it and hope things work according to plan. Well, maybe not here. We need to do a little maneuver to make sure we actually get out of this area. And now we can bring the strategy of floor it all the time back to the table. And we'll see how well it does. In fact, floor it and jump. Let's see how well that does. That's going to destroy it, I'm pretty sure. Yep, there goes just one of the wheels. We got 3 left, so we can keep on driving a bit into the hole. Now we can't really do much driving. We upside down. So we'll reset it, and then what I want to do is try to drive out of here, and we'll see, can we go to the right side? See, with only reverse going in one direction, something like this ends up being a little bit more difficult. So what we probably should do actually is go to the other side, because it widens up there, and then we can do a 180 to come back at this to try to drive out of here. Yeah, this is working much better. very slowly. You notice I'm not even bothering using the bike engine here until we're actually lined up and ready to go, because then I don't have to downshift it. There's so much management of the transmissions. Sometimes it's easier just to be like, you know what? We only need front wheel drive. It's fine, okay? And this might actually be a good place for the rally one almost, because it's pretty smooth through here, but I already got the portal one, or the gambler one as it's properly called, so we'll keep using it. And then once we crash, we'll go and make a quick map change to somewhere else. And there goes one of the wheels. We are done up. There goes another wheel. Hey, we're front wheel driving it again. And you can kind of see the axles again, but they're a little bit messed up. They do still rotate even if the belt isn't properly lined up anymore, I've noticed. But now, let's do some rally testing at Small Island, USA. And to do the rally testing, we gotta take the most direct route we possibly can. But first, a quick look at the rally car, because it's a little funky looking on the front. Yeah, you got a decent amount of ground clearance, looks good for rallying. And then the rear, you don't quite have as much. Like, what's going on there? Well, that's actually mentioned in the description. Yes, it's a rally car and it has a rally suspension, but it's not really suited for the engine in the rear because it's extra weight, which means that's why it sits lower. Makes sense to me. So let's see how well this thing does. And one thing that really will throw you off is the gearing is different on the rally version. So once you finally get used to shifting the gambler, well, too bad. Now you're shifting the rally one, which is completely different. Overall, though, rally capabilities are pretty good. And we'll keep driving along all the way through this rally course and get to the finish line. And when we find some paved roads, there's something else I want to do. For now, focus on the driving, which is bouncing me all over the place. Oh, by the way, I think I forgot to mention it. That thing at the top that looks like it could be like a light bar or something, that is actually the radiator for the bike engine to keep it cool. So that's why that's up there. It's just a nice, fresh air source. Very strapped on. That's also why there's no window on the right side where the tubes are going. They just took the window out completely. Like, I kind of looked at it when I said, yeah, there's a bike engine in the rear, but I didn't tell you what it actually was. And I figured some of you guys are probably looking at it like, what the heck is that? Well, now you know. And we are just all over the place right now. Oh, my goodness. But we are almost to the paved roads, and we are here. Okay, now we got to do a really dumb test. What happens if you put one in reverse and the other in forward? Let's see. Not much at all. Not much at all. Okay, well, all we did was toast the clutch. How about this? We do the same thing as before with a nice fresh clutch, but this time we're going to rev it up and drop the clutch. So we go like this. They're both revved up and go. Nothing's happening. I think the gears are just a little too long, so they're not powerful enough to do much. So what if we go back to the Gambler, which has shorter gearing, which might make this kind of interesting. So same thing as before. Rev it up, drop it. Oh yes, this is what I was looking for. Oh, this is great. I'm like sidestepping on them, just spinning all over the place. This is exactly what I dreamed it would be. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but it's doing stuff. We're doing spins. We're doing donuts somehow. Have I actually? Yeah, I think I've torn the front suspension apart. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm steering left and right, and it kind of does it. But you see, I'm supposed to be going left and right. Only one of the wheels is going both directions. Here we go. Do it some more. Oh, this is awesome. I have no idea what practical use this has, but this is fun. Look at me like sidestepping across the dirt. Yeah, I got here. Now where do I go? I don't know. Just keep going, I guess. I liked it at the start, though, where it really wiggled until it broke. That was funny. Let's see that again. Rev it up and go. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. Shaking. Why is this so amusing to me? I don't know. It's just, cars shouldn't do that. So seeing one do that is just very, very fun. Oh my goodness. When you put it to 8 times slow-mo, you can really see what's going on. Oh my. Oh, you should not do this to a car. I don't know how you would normally manage to do that to a car, but you should definitely not do that. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for this video. Until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. And remember, if you like or dislike this video, I will know. I could tell by how much the car shakes, so do the right thing, and I'll see you next time. And I'm back actually in a completely different location. So after I recorded that video, there was an update to the mod that added 2 new versions. There's now the crawler version, and then the racing version. The racing version, there's not too much to talk about. It's the same one we were driving before, but it has a racing suspension setup and racing wheels on it. The crawler, on the other hand, is a monster that can easily climb over things such as the racing version of the dual engine Covet. So easily going over it, and really the only thing we have to worry about is the possibility of tipping over. This thing does feel kind of top heavy, and it's very easy to tip it over. But I just had to mention that these two new additions existed, and I didn't feel like redoing the whole video just to include them. Especially considering how interesting the crawler is, because it's so good at climbing things until you break the suspension like I've done, then it can't steer, and then it just rolls over. Yeah, it does do that sometimes. But aside from that, it's a great off-roading crawler, and I had to mention it. The racing one, not different enough for I to mention it on its own, but if we're coming back for the crawler, we might as well mention it as well. Oh, it tips over so easy. That's what I get for charging at it at full speed. So anyways, that's it for this video, part 2. Till next time, it's WhyBeAre, and yada yada yada, you already heard it. I always hate when a car gets updated after I record the video, because it's like I never want to actually record the whole video all over again to include it, because it's just like, you know, I spent so much time and then I just gotta throw it away to try again. It's just like, really? I don't wanna. I'm just gonna tack it on at the end. I don't want to throw all that work away, man. It sucks to have to do that.